There's this notion that Nigerians believe in the big government, big man thing, the feudal system. So they're not really concerned. As far as a big man, we can all dobale and let everything go. Is that a problem in itself?
Well, yeah, I agree so much with what Mr. Nora has said. This is a problem. And then the brown envelope syndrome is another problem.
Yeah, shaking
that's
the Ghana must go syndrome.
You know, I feel that's a big problem, because I've seen cases where people's decisions changed overnight. They were in what you would call the movement. They had agreed on things that were going to happen because they needed to put things right. Growing up, I've seen quite a number of those kind of things where people came at about 11:30, 12, and then opened some Ghana Must Goes and sprayed the thing around, and their praises were sung overnight, and they took the day. And they understood that within that area, that was a strategy to win elections. So you had a particular candidate who came, did everything within few years, maybe 1 or 2 years before the elections, and then he didn't have enough money closer to the elections to pay. You know, during that time is when you see them go around and do a lot of vote buying. They buy bags of rice, bags of gari, things they were not given to the masses before, and they give it out. See, this is the area where I feel that if people get the right advocacy, the right awareness, they'll be able to understand that one small bag of salt is not enough to sell 4 years.
For some people, it is. When you look at poverty and you look at where they are ready to take the one they can see now than the one you're promising them in another 4 years that should materialize.
That will spread.
Yeah.
You see, that's where I was going to with this. To that place where we have something that is like a cancer that is sitting inside of us and is eating us up, and that is poverty of the mind. You know, we believe that...
Not just poverty.
No, not the material. That poverty of the mind, where we are not even able to think for ourselves. We are not able to... Your children have gotten ready, they're about to set out to school. You're not even able to give them some mental infrastructure. Let me put it that way. If people can say stomach infrastructure, then I can also say mental infrastructure. You're not even able to guide them to look out for the right things. So if someone is going along the road and say, okay, come and kill this person for me, I'll give you this amount of money, and it's bigger than any amount of money you've had before, it's right, because you're going to get it. If someone has been in government for the past couple of years and you did not see anything, and you are collecting a bag of salt now as your own share of what has accrued to you from that period, and you're spreading it over the next 4 years, it's a signature to just sell out your entire 4 years. As against, okay, we had a candidate, a young man amongst us, like Mr. Nora was saying, who is credible, who has really organized us and put us together, and we can see potential in him, and he's one of us, so he's not just going to get there and we can't have access to him, and we vote him in. You know, so we are still at that level where poverty has eaten so deep that the people will want to mortgage themselves for that little that is coming in within that period. And we need to have so much awareness. We need to at least be able to show the people why that is not the route to go.
Cynthia, again, from this preliminary report of this supplementary elections, I see here that you observed voter inducement by political actors through the provision of gift items, suspicious community empowerment programs. I'm reading from the report. These are not my words. Suspicious community empowerment programs and cash handouts in locations considered to be swing wards and polling units. This desperation by the political class and their determination to obtain political power at all costs was extended to vote buying at the polling units. Now, in any situation, I mean, people have stopped using the phrase vote buying. They started using the word vote trading, because for there to be this kind of transaction, there has to be a willing buyer and a willing seller. Now, your report tends to put more of the blame on the desperation of the political actors. But as our last speaker just pointed out, the person who is receiving the gifts, who is receiving the cash handouts, who is selling the vote, has equal, if not more blame, and probably more to lose, right?
Yes. So I think we can't have this conversation in isolation with our reality. And why is that so? Because we know the rate of poverty, even if that is not an excuse. But it's the fact that when over a period of time, if you live and if you keep a people fettered in chains of poverty, now what happens is when you come with a key and you make promises that you can unlock this thing with their chains, with this key, all they need to do is to drink this water. Now they will start believing that, oh, perhaps I should just drink this water and now maybe I would feel better. Now, because over a period of time, we've had an increase of, when you talk about underdevelopment, we have it's a progression. Every community is like poverty is moving from one community to the other. Before you know it, more communities are becoming poorer than they were before. But what we have seen now is it's the height of this is when you're degrading your people. Now, when you start using supposedly community development initiatives as a bargain for people to vote for you, things that ordinarily are the entitlement and rights of the people. So there is this thin line between what is government development initiative and vote buying, because towards the elections, we start seeing initiatives and projects deployed across board. The question is what happened 4 years before, 3 years before, 2 years before? Why do you do this towards an election for an exchange of the vote? So I wouldn't put all my blame on the voters. I would put some portion of that because we need to become wise. We need to become active. We need to start asking questions. At what cost? If I do this, where does that leave me in the next 4 years? That is one question we need to ask. But then also focus on those who have seen the need to go and buy votes or sway votes in their favor by providing things that ordinarily are the entitlements of the citizens. So that is one. The other is the fact that votes are actually beginning to count. Because once upon a time, vote trading was not so common. What you had was people deployed large sums of money to few individuals that they felt could manipulate the process. Now, what you have is a decentralization of those large sums of money to more people because the process is actually becoming credible, whether we like it or not. And the thing is, parties know that. So if votes begin to count, what is the better way to manipulate the process? Well, buy the votes so that the votes that count are votes that are bought. And that is what is happening. Now you now have even governments who are in office using state resources to buy votes, and no one is holding them accountable. Now, at one point, the argument is, oh, this is development. This is government reaching out to the citizens. Well, at what point did you reach out to the citizens? Did you start that at the commencement of your time in office, or did you start that towards an election? So for this supplementary election, we saw all the reports going about. At one point, Gamma was trending. You have different of these reports in different locations. So it's actually worrisome that political parties or candidates now do not see the need to work hard to grant legitimacy to their being in office. So what you have is no longer legitimacy based on performance, because you're not in office because you're performing, but rather legitimacy based on how much money I have to buy votes. So we should start asking people that are elected, can they sincerely in the middle of the night beat their chest and say, yes, I won this election fair and square because the people chose me, or I won these elections because I bought my way through. And that is why the quality of leadership is dropping, is depreciating, because people who are elected do not even feel the need to be accountable to citizens because they have bought their way through. So when you have bought your way through, what you need to do when you get into office is to pay back all those who invested in your being in office, and then you neglect the citizens. And this is the key point for voters. Citizens, we need to understand and appreciate that for every naira we take, we have sold the right to demand the accountability we want to demand in government. Because you can't start going to demand when all you did was to collect money to vote. And that is why you have credible people that actually can run for, can compete and contest, but you know that their chances are slim because they don't have the monies to deploy. And maybe I'll give an example with some of our young candidates that ran in the elections, because we'll be having interactions with them, just gathering their experiences. And you have some of them say their major challenge was money. Not just money to buy nominations to contest primaries or to print posters, but money to dish out on elections day. You have some of the candidates saying that some of their party agents, they got to the polling units and their party agents gave them back their card, their tags, and followed another party to get monies from those parties. So you can imagine the frustration, and you have them saying, oh, to contest, I need billions, I need millions. To run for state assembly, someone say for state assembly, she wants to see if she can get up to 200 million to run for that election because that is what it takes now. How much money can you pay on elections day to the appropriate people and then also to those that would make sure those votes that you're buying and are actually counting? So it's a vicious circle that we must address. But if we don't look at the whole issue on development, if we don't look at the whole issue of the quality of life and the standard of living of citizens, and if citizens don't get angry enough of our situation on where we found ourselves, we will still have this repeating, and it will even get worse because poverty is increasing. You have more young people.
Let me put you on pause, Cynthia. Let me put you on pause, Cynthia, and let me come to you, Nora. Is this a case of the chicken and the egg? Because on one hand, we talk about, you know, the emphasis on the voter and knowing that you're selling this and all of that. But on the other hand, we're also talking of increasing poverty and the desperation of more and more people just to survive and sustain themselves. So, which one are we doing first? Are we going after the voter or are we going after the process?
You know, it's like a vicious circle. So we need something to intervene in that vicious circle external to it. Because as is now, you know, by its nature, the circle self-sustains itself. All right? So we are right now, you know, it's like, so you wish you could stop the politicians and empower the people. Yes? So when the people are empowered, then they can make the right choices. Unfortunately, you can't put a pause on the politicians. They will continue to want power. Right. Okay? Now, so because you cannot put a pause on the politicians and they will continue to want power, therefore the circle is sustained. So what do we need? What must happen? Either that somebody in that circle that is influential enough, and that somebody could be many people, all right? Like she said, that maybe the people will get angry and get to a point and they say to themselves, you know what, to hell with your money, I'm going to vote the right way. Or maybe one influential politician at state level, at federal level, will say, enough is enough. I have the power to do the right thing, so let me do it. All right? Otherwise, you know, unless there's some force that will intervene, we are in a vicious circle and it's a bind.
Let me put you on pause because we're quickly running out and allow Julius have the final word here.
Okay.
He says something needs to intervene outside of this. What?
Yeah. Good question. Because, you know, in secondary physics, primary physics, that's where they used to say that every object will continue in its state of motion or of rest until acted upon by an external force.
Right.
So that was where I agree totally with what he said. Now, what is the external force? We need, I go back to what I said earlier on, we need advocacy. Information is, it's still true that information is power. It's still very, very true that information is power. If you give the right, take what happened during Ebola period, for instance. Nigerians never knew so many things about hygiene, but they saw that Ebola had consequences. And how did they see that? People tell them they didn't have to contact Ebola to know how dangerous it was. People told them that, look, this thing is dangerous, and this is what you need to do to avoid it. If we increase the pool of information that is available to the public, when people cannot find thugs to represent them anymore, we will get to a level where you'll see civil society groups advocating more and more for these things. And many groups will rise up, even in local languages. Groups will rise up speaking against corruption and people who are coming to you to induce you with little things to vote for them. I believe that if we increase I don't have faith in thinking that a politician will come up one day and feel that he shouldn't do that. For them, this is a good process that has favored them over time. It's a good investment strategy.
So there's no need to change your
For them,
strategy.
I'm not even going to talk about whether they need to change or anything, because these are learned people. They understand what they are doing. For them, it's a strategy for survival. So, but for the other people who are doing what they are doing because they don't have the information, if that information is made available, if groups rise up and begin to make more and more of that information available.
You can hear the music in the background. That's the director's way of telling us that we need to wind down this segment.
Yeah, so let's improve awareness.